Hello, Patreon family. This is Megan from the HoodAstroQ, and today we're going to be talking about the astrology behind Christmas. Okay, I thought this was very fitting due to the holiday season. Everybody has their own particular politics in terms of whether they partake or choose not to partake in said holiday, but from an educational standpoint, I want to get into the energy and the energetic signature behind the holiday that we know to be Christmas. So, y'all ready? Here we go. Christmas started off as a pagan holiday, much like the majority of the holidays that we acknowledge and celebrate in the U.S. It was celebrated by the Romans initially to mark the beginning of the winter solstice, which is supposed to be the indication of the end of fall and the beginning of winter. So these were steeped in traditions that were created in order to celebrate the birth of the sun, which I found to be particularly interesting considering that a lot of the etymology of Christianity and their use of the sun centers around Jesus, right? Jesus is considered to be the son of the Father, S-O-N. But when we talk about from a pagan perspective, they worship the S-U-N, the sun. So you see how that kind of works there. Different video for a different day, but a very interesting overlap. Another reason that the Romans celebrated winter solstice was to kind of create this symbol of hope that could get them through a long winter. For a lot of the people around that time, winter represented death and decay. And this is because these are typically the byproducts of what came with such a cold, harsh winter season. The winter was equated with fear, death, and destruction. Now, due to the diminishment of the sun and the daylight, once again, when we talk about a group of people who worshipped the sun and placed so much emphasis on the sun, because with sun came the crops and they were able to feed their cattle, and they had a lot of success when it came to like agriculture and resources. In the wintertime, there was obviously a lack of these things. They had to kill their animals. They had to make really hard decisions. This could have also impacted them financially as well. So also with winter came poverty and struggle. The winter solstice was supposed to be a symbol of hope that life could endure such conditions and that there will be warmer and more fruitful seasons to come. Now, the essence of poverty, struggle, hardship are encompassed by the planet Saturn. And interestingly enough, the Greeks and the Romans also celebrated an event called Saturnalia, which occurred near the winter solstice, because this is actually where the sun would enter Capricorn. And so not only was this the peak of struggle season, so to speak, they offset a lot of the hardship of this particular season by indulging in activities that kind of satisfied their carnal desires. So during the winter solstice and Saturnalia, they partook in things like drinking and smoking and gambling. Originally, these celebrations began on around the 17th of December and lasted through until about the 23rd of December. And I thought this was also particularly interesting because this would also encompass a lot of the excessive spirit that Sag season had as well. So a lot of these celebrations definitely teetering the line between excessiveness, right? Lots of food, alcohol, and overindulgence also being the norm. These celebrations started off as a series of adult-like festivals with lots of adult activity. Once again, smoking, drinking, gambling. But even in those times, children drank. So the children who did participate in these events were doing things that in today's standards would not be very age appropriate. Now, the way that Christmas has been celebrated as we know now was implemented by the Catholic government after the death of Christ in order to make Christianity the widespread or mainstream religion of the land. So they observed people who celebrated the winter solstice and decided to make Christmas a holiday around that time because people were celebrating anyway. All right, so that would be like a really nice way to kind of backdoor the holiday into its existence. And on top of that, they calculated December 25th as a date of celebration because it was also 9 months after March 25th, which is the date of the vernal equinox and a date linked to the conception of Jesus. Okay, so some people celebrate it as the Feast of Annunciation. But anyway, different video for a different day as well. A lot of people use that to get the theory that Jesus was actually a Pisces, to which I actually agree with, okay? Because if you think a Capricorn died for your sins, you're smoking dick, okay? But anyway, anywho, so Christmas in and of itself is heavily rooted in tradition. It's changed a bunch throughout the years. And so when we talk about astrology, Christmas absolutely, even from its earlier beginnings, has taken on the form of Saturn. So once again, taking it back to Saturnalia and the Greeks celebrating Saturn, right? And even the winter solstice. It was birthed, or it originated from a space of lack. People trying to survive, right? Saturn is a planet in astrology that deals with, of course, you're going to always hear the keyword restriction. You're going to hear the keywords delay. It deals with, once again, a lack. It deals with death. It deals with decay. All of the things that were encompassed in its early roots when we talk about the winter solstice, right? Suffering, poverty. So it's no wonder that this took place in Capricorn season, because Saturn does directly govern the sign Capricorn. Saturn deals with inadequacies. It deals with hard work, right? So people having to work harder, order, responsibility. It deals with what we have to do. It deals with a certain level of force, limitations, structure, organization, status, with those who tend to fall on the bottom of society status and hierarchy suffering the most, materialism, deterioration, punishment, karma, patience, and time. Once again, with the nights being very long during winter, right, during the winter solstice, people having to wait it out, waiting until the season warmed up, right? Taking a lot of patience and time. Saturn is even tough love. So if you want to equate it back to people having to endure the not so pleasant in order to, endure and get through to a more fruitful season, then, that also applies as well. And then when you observe the implementation of Christmas and its religious centered kind of roots, Capricorn and Saturn's influence was definitely present by way of the government. Saturn does also rule the government. It deals with enforcement, right? And so that's why I find it very interesting that very, very religious people, namely Christians, place so much stock on Christmas, because Christmas in and of itself, there's nothing spiritual about it. It's very much the perversion of what is supposed to be, a spiritual symbol, but they took it and made it a very earthly thing. Saturn rules the earthly realm. So the government trying to control and enforce a certain religion upon a group of people, right? That's very much within that Saturn Capricorn energetic signature. Christmas has also been used over the years to further oppress marginalized groups of people, namely even within slavery. It was strategically weaponized against blacks to demonstrate the power that masters had over their slaves, which is also very Saturn in nature, right? Punishment, even exploitation. These are people who went without shoes most of the year. A lot of the slaves were barefoot, and the masters took Christmas to give them things that they should have given them anyway. Like, okay, here are a new pair of shoes, and now I should be celebrated for my act of generosity, even though I've been a cruel bitch to you all year. Or doing things to make slaves turn against one another in hopes of getting in good with the master. And interestingly enough, Saturn also deals with selling out. It deals with being a kiss ass. It deals with wanting to covet that top position or being as close in proximity to power as possible, even if it means you have to exploit yourself or other people. The modern perception of Christmas has also been centered around consumerism and commercialization, which capitalism thrives off of. All of these are Saturn-based principles and qualities, Capricorn-based principles and qualities, thus making it commonplace to buy things, material things, going shopping. We give, right? That's the first thing that people associate with Christmas, even children. Therefore, from a historic standpoint, making Christmas an ideal time to engage in protests such as financial strikes and blackouts, because this is a time where the most money is being spent and pumped back into the economy. Also, when it comes to the nature of Christmas celebrations, even the winter solstice celebrations and festivals, and the engagement of things like drinking, smoking, gambling, so on and so forth. These are all examples of what it means to engage your fleshly nature, right? Your carnal desire. And because at the time Pluto was not in existence, actually, when it comes to the outer planets like Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, they weren't discovered till fairly recently. So before then, when we talk about traditional astrology, most astrologers deemed Saturn to be the planet that was very representative of a lot of those fleshly, carnal, and lower nature desires, even when we talk about things like sex. And so this is why even in tarot, the devil card is ruled by Saturn, and it essentially governs bondage, earthly, fleshly temptation, sexual temptation and gratification, even addictions. And subsequently, all of these things are very much factored into the way that we celebrate what we now know to be Christmas energetically. The whole concept of tradition is also embodied by Saturn and Capricorn. And so is that adult natured theme. Capricorn deals with elders, quite literally. It deals with adults. And although in modern times, Christmas has taken on a much more family-centered kind of theme, right? The PR campaign for Christmas has been working overtime, okay? Because we roast marshmallows over an open fire, bake cookies, hang stockings, and all that other good stuff. Its roots are definitely founded in the exact opposite. Another way that we could look at this parallel between Saturn / Capricorn and Christmas would be that this is a time period that tends to challenge everyone in terms of their discipline. So as mentioned before, it's very easy to fall into patterns of drunkenness, addiction, overindulgence. And so, by this time, Thanksgiving has already occurred, right? And by the time we get to Christmas, people are having a really hard time holding it together, especially if you're somebody who struggles with your weight, or if you're trying to make any other type of lifestyle change, once again, including staying clean. These are holidays where alcoholics and whatnot really tend to struggle. So Saturn also deals with discipline, right? It could deal with tests where you're being tested. A lot of times we wrestle and struggle with our own nature in terms of self-control, which is also very Saturn in nature. It's a culture or a climate where we get together with family, once again, overindulge, we drink ourselves silly and things like that, and then often feel sad about it or sorry that we did it later, or have to pay the piper later, which is also very Saturn in terms of like punishment and whatnot. So those are some things to think about as well. And yeah, that concludes my video. I thought that this video would be a nice little touch, especially considering that Capricorn season begins tomorrow and transiting Venus is currently retrograde. So a history lesson, okay, a little astrology / Christmas history lesson would be very fitting. Y'all hop down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share your thoughts, questions, comments, opinions per usual. And I'll holler at y'all in the next video. Bye.